Now that we have all 7 deadly sins in Helluva Boss, I want to take the time to rank them, but this won't be a ranking based off of their power, so expect a video on that when we get a little bit more information about some of the new ones. Instead, today I want to rank them based entirely off of how much I like them, whether we have a lot of information on them or virtually none at all. My name is Deepcut, demons call me ImpCut, subscribe I guess, and let me know your ranking of the 7 sins in the comments down below before you watch my ranking so you can see how they compare. Number 7, my least favorite of the deadly sins, is actually Mammon. I've said this before, I just really hate the guy. Don't get me wrong, he's meant to be hated, and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't hate them for making Mammon. He's just not the kind of villain that I love to hate. There's nothing wrong with that either, but for me, Mammon is at his best when he's in his full demon form, which is legitimately disgusting and creepy to see. I mean, just look at all those legs. But outside of him just being his most villainous as someone to actually fight, I just find his presence annoying, and jokes about him being annoying are just annoying to me. He does have cool finger skateboards though, so I guess I'd still give him a solid 2 out of 10. Next up, I want to put Leviathan. Leviathan was the sin I was most curious to see, and while I do like her symbolism, I don't know enough about her personality for her to mean much to me outside of her design. Her design does everything it needs to for what we know about the character, with the unfortunate truth being that we may never know that much about her in the show. She and Belphegor were thrown into this episode rather fast, leading to the last 3 of 7 sins being revealed all at once, with the real introduction here being focused on Satan. Leviathan is a character that a lot of fans are finding weirdly hot, at least based on what I see in the comments for my videos. But personally, she does nothing for me, and the hottest sin will always be Beelzebub, but more on her later. As for Leviathan, based on what we can infer, she doesn't seem very interesting. She has 2 heads, and the 2 heads seem to disagree, and one of them may even be attracted to Mammon, or at least his money. But because of all that, she's kind of just a funny background gag. But if she's your favorite, and not just because of the real-life Leviathan lore, let me know why, because I'm really curious about why some people put her down as her favorite out of all 7. Number 5, Osmodeus. Osmodeus is the first deadly sin we got to meet on screen in Helluva Boss, and arguably the sin we know the most about because of how intimate his story is with Fizzarali. And it's a cool story, don't get me wrong, but the story of Osmodeus and Fizz is so much more about what makes Fizzarali interesting than Osmodeus, with Fizzarali being one of my favorite characters and the one I hope we still get something of a new plot for in the upcoming seasons. But with that in mind, I find Osmodeus rather boring as a satellite who exists to more or less support Fizz. I mean, don't get me wrong, I felt something when he took his shirt off. But he mostly exists to just be the perfect love interest for the far more interesting Fizzarali, and that's okay. The point of this list isn't to complain about the characters on the lower end after all, and just like how some characters are purposely made to be hated, like Mammon, and others exist essentially as a background gag, like Leviathan, other characters exist more so to help support the actual focal characters like Blitz and Fizz. Number 4, Lucifer. Lucifer was a character I was very curious about before the Has-Been Hotel season aired, because there was such a large sense of mystery surrounding this figure from real-life mythology. We spent years theorizing about all the different ways the story could have gone with him, ranging from him being an ultimate evil to him just being more of a well-meaning Prometheus figure like he ended up being in the show. Both are interesting to me in terms of lore, but with the way he is being approached right now, he mostly exists to support Charlie the way Osmodeus exists to support Fizzarali. Don't get me wrong, I can and do feel for Lucifer, and he's not some blank one-note satellite for Charlie at all, and I absolutely love it when he makes a sad face in the show, because you can really feel his desire to be close to his daughter and how he's dealing with the feeling of being pushed away. But with what remains of his lore, at least as far as we can theorize on it, Charlie herself becomes the more interesting character, in many ways an extension of Lucifer, and if we were to count her as the new Lucifer, she might be at the very top of this list. But for now, Lucifer himself is not as interesting as the next option on this list. Number 3, Satan. Satan is a character we've theorized on a bit in the past, but so far that's been to a relatively small degree compared to Lucifer. It wasn't really known until recently how important Satan was going to be to the story, but right now Satan's story could go anywhere. He's not just interesting because of his potential, but because of the more narrow direction that Vivziepop has already carved out for him. Satan could have been a clone of Lucifer, or he could have been his best friend, or his sidekick, or his ally, but instead, Lucifer and Satan have an incredibly complex rivalry based on just a few little nods to each other, and the way we can factor this into the show going forward is amazing. Satan's importance could have been apocalyptic, with the show hinting at maybe building towards an end times battle if Hazbin Hotel isn't on that itself, but even if Helluva Boss doesn't go there, they've set up quite the plot for Satan. Right now, Satan has established himself as someone who wants to be the real god of hell, but who, in a surprise, says "Oh my Lucifer" instead of "Oh Satan," the way all the Wrathring imps do to revere Satan himself. You can almost imagine Satan having a sort of panic attack anytime that he has to say "Oh Lucifer," something he's probably embarrassed to be caught saying in front of his imps in particular. But anything that upsets him must remind him of the most upsetting moment of his life, which would be when the very tiny Lucifer was able to overpower him in their first conflict in hell, leading to the present where Satan still wants to be seen as a god, but who swears by Lucifer's name when he is shocked.
What in Lucifer's hell is this?
Beyond his relationship with Lucifer or the potential apocalypse, however, we also have the plot set up for tension between Satan and the imps as a whole, and really a tension between the lower classes and the royals through them. This seems like it will be an important part of season 3 and 4, and who knows how exactly that could end. Satan, thus, is one of my favorites already, because he feels like his own character with pretty unique dynamics and issues. And I'm not going to lie, he'd be number 1 in terms of complexity of character, but the next choices I have are favorites for more personal reasons. For instance, number 2, Beelzebub. I really could just summarize this saying that Beelzebub is just hot, but it really does go beyond that. We all remember where we were when Kesha was introduced as the deadly sin of gluttony, and the girlfriend of Vortex, and obviously a lot of us were smitten with her. Don't get me wrong, she's also a cool character, but Beelzebub is just such a fun design that even beyond being attractive, she reminds you of what it means to want to make your own character for these fandom-based shows. She is a real-life celebrity persona turned into a character that felt like it broke a lot of rules of the world, but only ended up opening the world to more and more possibilities. Beelzebub's design only got cooler with her return in Mastermind, where she has her neat royal outfit that some say is supposed to make her look like a lion tamer, but which I think makes her look pretty awesome. You guys have no idea how happy I was for this character to actually speak again, and I'm not even like a Kesha fan or anything, and in fact I was worried that casting Kesha would lead to her not being able to return, especially for smaller moments like this in Mastermind, but the fact that she did is just an absolute gift to me. Number 1, my favorite deadly sin, Belphegor, the Sin of Sloth. Now, I know a lot of people are going to give me hate because I said Leviathan was practically at the bottom of my list earlier because she was basically just a background gag. And Belphegor is basically a background gag. But she's my background gag, and I love her. Like, I'm not good with animals. Some say she's an alpaca or some a llama, but to me, she will always just be the innocent sleepy sheepy who just couldn't stay awake at a meeting for the 7 deadly sins. Like, look at her. She's not even trying to be sinful. She's just so tired. I'm not really big on merchandise either, but I have to get a plushie of her at some point, and I'm not even just gonna like keep it in my office where I keep other merchandise that I buy just to support the show. But I'm gonna be carrying this thing with me from my bedroom to my living room, and my life's just going to be a whole lot better with her in it. I don't know what the show's plans are for this character, but I want to imagine that she really is just going to be this adorable little monster who is designed to create fun merchandise without too much personality to her. Because she really just makes the perfect demonic merchandise that you don't even have to be a fan of the show to enjoy. But if I had to give a more serious reason for making Belphegor number 1, I'm honestly much more interested in Belphegor's character and what VivziePop may do with her over Leviathan. While Leviathan has really cool real-life lore, I'm not really sure where that would be going in the show, but with Belphegor being modeled to look more like the candle-headed Baphomet, it opens up this huge sort of background mystery that VivziePop is well known for. We don't know when we will get answers for this, if we ever will, but at least in the mind of the writers, there was a clear reason to make Belphegor look like Baphomet instead of having them be separate entities, and I believe we'll get more hints of this at the very least as the show goes on and we see more of the Slothring. But what do you guys think? How different was your top 7 compared to mine, and how stupid were my reasons for my list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe so you don't miss my eventual power ranking of these 7 deadly sins. See you guys next time.